Alright, so this will be a feedback slash critique for Max. I didn't realize that you were the one asking feedback. There's some confusion. Let's just do this real quick. My name is Shazam on the Discords, or I guess in Peter's Discord it's New Tactics, St. Paul. I am by no means a Tekken professional. I'm just someone who plays a lot of Tekken, watches a lot of Tekken, tries to learn a lot about Tekken. And based on all those experiences, I took a look at the gameplay and have some food for thought, right? It's just stuff that I think, hey, I think this could be improved in your gameplay based on what I understand and know about Tekken. It is by no means gospel. It is just something to think about, to consider, and maybe try and incorporate into your gameplay. It won't make you a pro instantly, but will hopefully kind of, reduce some bad habits, increase your understanding of the game, and give you something to think about. As always, if you have any questions after this, let me know. Alright. I like the jabs. Take them to the wall. So, what exactly did Rotten do that made you go, I want to immediately run in and do 1+2? What was the reasoning behind that? The reason being is I feel like you have this bad habit of overcommitting on a lot of strings, right? I think it's the Bryan quarter circle back 3-2, right? The big kick into the downward punch that he does, right? And then 1+2 into 1+2. That big ender that's launch punishable by Bryan, right? Because it got you killed in the previous round. The name of the game for your improvement that I would strongly recommend looking into is just reducing your commitment, right? You basically throughout your style is that even though your poking is fine and you don't have any egregious habits like doing some snake edge in front of their face and then praying that's your primary offense or stuff like that, it just feels like you have a bad habit of overcommitting to options that you don't need to. A lot of times these are strings, sometimes it's offensive sequences or call outs that I don't necessarily understand why. In this situation, the 1+2 worked out, but I'm just highlighting this specific situation as what was the reasoning behind it? Why would you do this, right? Stuff like that. Because it's a running theme throughout the set of just situation's kind of ambiguous, you're in a weird neutral situation, and then you go for this very commitment heavy option that you don't need to, right? And that's the key signifier here. When you do a big commitment, and I'm talking commitment as in it's risky or it leaves you very punishable on block, was there a reason to do it? Was there an actual need for you to do that? Or was there another way that you could achieve whatever you were trying to do? It's a bit tricky, but basically you're going to hear a lot about me going, poke more, commit less, and that's just the name of the game, right? There are times where you're going to want to commit more, and I'm going to talk about that right now, actually. Right here, you landed hatchet kick. You are now +5, right? Pretty sure it's +5. I vaguely recall it getting buffed. Hatchet kick's it's a pretty good move, right? What do you do immediately? You press 4. And my question again here is why, right? What has Rotten done throughout the set that made you go, I need to enforce my plus frames with the Magic 4? Has he challenged you on plus frames? A lot, right? Has he disrespected your advantageous situations or whatsoever, right? Has anything like that happened? The main thing that I'm trying to stress here is that Rotten throughout this set, whether it's the early games I'm watching, the late games, or these middle games in this video, a lot of it just seems to be Rotten will respect your plus frames. If he's at a heavily disadvantaged situation, he's not going to mash his way out of it or really challenge it too much, right? He will wait for you to finish your turn or end on something punishable and either punish you or then utilize movement to get out of the way. But in this situation, right? He's -5. He just got hit with hatchet. He opts to just dash back, right? That's something to consider when I talk about try to avoid overcommitting, but here I'm going to recommend overcommitting, right? Context changes a lot of the feedback that I'm going to give you and a lot of the points I'm trying to make. Previously, when I'm talking about overcommitting, it's just as simple as stop finishing strings that your opponent are going to punish really easily, right? Stop giving your opponent free damage. In this situation, I'm trying to stress is that Ron has shown that he's more passive on defense. He's just going to hold back. He's going to stand block. He's not really going to challenge your plus frames a lot. So all of those things to me go, you don't need to enforce your plus frames or try to frame trap him with a magic 4. Instead, you can opt to be more greedy, right? In this context, be more greedy. Do another hatchet. Do back 1. If you're afraid of chasing it down, dash up, back 1. Dash up, hatchet. Something like that, right? Something to show that you're willing to take a bit more of a risk and be a bit more greedy because Rotten is maybe a little bit too passive on his defense. That will let Rotten go, oh, I should be a bit more active on my defense and maybe try to challenge it next time. And at that point, with your plus frames in hand, you can then go for, a counter hit launcher or a counter hit string like down forward 2, 3 or something, right? That's gonna be like the running theme throughout look at the context of the situation. 1, do you need to commit more than you are currently doing? Or 2, if you commit more, what is your reward? What is your goal? Etc. 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 Right? In any ambiguous situation, you're neutral. You guys are feeling each other out, trying to poke, right? Avoid any commitments. In this situation, when you're +5 and Ron has shown he's not really gonna be pressing or disrespecting your advantage too often, right? Take the risk. I think it's important to enforce your plus frames and be a bit greedier against opponents so that way they will go, oh, he's going to be very greedy and try to keep up this pressure. I should do something about it. And then when they do something about it on your read, that's when you can go magic 4, down forward 2, etc., etc., etc. That's another. So let's talk about this sequence right here. When we talk about commitment, I also mean, right, like, is it right here? Or did I skip past it? There we go. Okay, so hatchet hits, yada yada, move up. You duck the 4, the forward 4, because you're going for a dick jab, which works out. But then you immediately just throw a while standing 1, and I feel like that's a bad habit, right? I think Rotten was telling me the punishment's kind of awkward for Bryan in the mirror, but regardless, unless you have a hard read, again, just don't bother with like these big call out options because you're overcommitting when you don't need to. It's a situation of you got lucky that Rotten was pressing something and it worked out fine, right? But it also feels like too often that's the cornerstone of your offense. Duck into whatever, call out with while standing 1, and then bank on the lack of punishment. Even if you were to go, oh, well, in a matchup where someone punishes it consistently, I just won't do it. It's like, I'm not necessarily... I'm trying to avoid it becoming a habit to begin with, right? Reserve while standing 1 for really, like, punishment options or heavy call out. Like you have the read, like a confident read. They're gonna do something a committal high and you're gonna go while standing 1 and destroy them, right? Just kind of throwing it out there and like a panic option just feels like you're unsure of what to do, so you're going for the biggest reward option, and that's just going to lead to bad habits and cost you later on down the line. In these situations, remember, consider while standing 4. Low commitment option, just quick plus frames if you get it. If you don't, you're safe on block, right? All those sort of situations are things to consider because you should be avoiding these commitments when you don't need to. like if you duck a jab, right? If you duck a jab, are you gonna do a jab on whiff? Assuming they just do a singular jab, not 1-2, right? Just a singular jab on whiff. The whiff frames are minus 17, while standing one is what, 16 frames? So you have a 1 to 2 frame window of leniency, right? Factoring in online lag, factoring in your own reaction speeds, is that something that you really want to bank on? That like, hey, I just ducked a jab, let me throw out this heavily minus launcher, right? Or, something like wall standing 4, super fast, way more leniency because, it's 11 frames versus 16. And yes, the reward is low, but it's still plus frames, which you can do stuff with. And more importantly, it's way less committal, right? That's going to be the running theme, like I said, throughout the set, is just when you review your gameplay, when you're playing in game, whenever, right? Review your options and go, do I really need to commit at this point in time? Yes or no, right? More often than not, the answer is no. You don't need to commit as much as you're doing. You just go poke a little bit whenever you need to, and then make a big call out based on your poking, right? Going, I'm going to finish these strings, or I'm going to do wall standing 1. It's just going to get you killed. Oh, that's the other thing, right? So right here, something to always remember is stage positioning, right? Whenever you have opportunity to, right? Position yourself just like you did there. Make sure that Ron's back is to the wall, even here, right? So after you've started the sidestep move, you kind of realigns, and then Ron's able, if he wanted to, Ron could escape the wall here. I think that's what you're doing with locking him down with 1+2. But again, like, do you need to commit to 1+2 like that? Just sidestep left or sidestep right. What is he going to do, right? Is he going to sidestep with you, making, risking being close to you as Bryan? No, he's gonna try and move away from it. But to move away from you, right? Because if he sidesteps left, he's gonna move with you, right? Following your sidestep right. If he sidesteps right, his right, oh, that sounds very confusing. Your sidestep right is going away from the background, right? Oh, towards the screen, not away from the screen. His sidestep left will follow you if you both choose that option. So to match it, he has to match your direction, and Ron also has to sidestep right. Except what is the issue? His sidestep right puts him closer to the wall. Do you see what I'm getting at here? So focus on these options to kind of focus on movement, and instead of, oh, I'm going to condition with moves, right? Is there a less committal option that you can do? So movement, stage positioning, factors to consider, and trying to achieve it in, the least amount of commitment possible. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's something that in this context, 1+2 worked out. But I think more often than not, just a simple sidestep left or sidestep right will enable you a more advantageous position without having to commit so much. See, like right here, this is what we're talking about. Because the lack of the sidestep, right? The 1+2 trades, sure, but now a simple sidestep left from Rotten, and now your back is to the wall. And that's when we talk about the positioning, is that with just movement, you could have avoided this situation. I don't think he kills you here. It's the same idea here, right? So after he blocks the down forward 1, why do you immediately retaliate with your own down forward 1? Why not just sidestep left, your sidestep left, and just start getting away from the wall to reposition so that you're in a better spot, right? Like, what is the mindset there of immediately retaliating with down forward 1? A lot of Tekken is going to be about, how do I put myself in the best position possible, and you have to make these decisions in a short amount of time, right? You have to think very quickly. Most of the time, it's get my combo, get my opponent to the wall, start up my pressure. But you also have to consider these situations, right? How do I put myself in the best position possible? Well, the first thing is you need to get away from the wall, so you start using movement and getting away from the wall. Especially with Rotten realizing that you have rage, he wasn't able to kill you, he misses the taunt, so he starts backing off, right? Especially with when he tries to enforce, like here with like wall standing 4, very linear move, so movement there would have given you more opportunities, right? Yeah, so again, why the orbital? What has Rotten done throughout the set that made you go, yes, I want to orbital after my hatchet? Right? What that It's like, what has he done that wouldn't also be achieved with like maybe a down forward 2, or being a bit more greedy with your own back one or hatchet? Because he's still backing off here, right? Your hatchet hits, he immediately just like backdashes, waits to reposition, sees that you committed to orbital, realizes he has an opportunity, goes for the back one, and now all of a sudden you're at a disadvantageous situation. Right? So again, context changes a lot. In this context of you have an advantage, I think you can be doing more to press your advantage. Nice. Exactly like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know Bryan combo route, so I don't know if what you went for was like the difficult pickup or not, or if that's just the standard pickup. But any combo stuff, just keep it simple. Go for the standard stuff. Make it consistent. What matters more in combos, for in my opinion, is that whatever is consistent is ideal. Okay, so like right here, right? You get the hatchet. He immediately jabs. Why? And you immediately wall standing 4. Good call out, because you were enforcing the plus frames earlier, right? Mm. But now that again, so now that's information. So the next time you hatch it, right? Uh, like I don't know if you need to do down 4 there. Down 4 works, sure, to enforce your frames, but you can also do something like down 4 too, right? Again, like you're plus 5, right? What is he going to do that beats down forward 2 in that situation? Right? So stuff to consider. It's that, okay, my opponent is respecting my frames. I'm going to be more greedy to try and condition them to disrespect my frames. Okay, my opponent is starting to disrespect my frames. So now what can I do? Well, what option are they using to disrespect my frames? What beats that option? Simple. Nice. Clean combos. Oh, that was a nice whiff punish. Nice, got the wall. Again, you gotta be careful, so... Okay. Gonna keep it quick, because I think I'm just rambling too much. The combo drops, which is fine, right? You got a little bit of a hidden, but you're overcommitting, right? Don't overcommit, because now all of a sudden your back is to the wall, and is that really where you want to be against Bryan? You're fighting your way out of there, but this is helping you stay alive in the game, but it's not closing out the game, if that makes sense. If you had instead seen the positioning, instead waited and just been like, okay, wait, let me reorient myself and make it so I have a more dominant position where Rotten's back is more cleanly against the wall and I'm have a lot more room to walk around and move with, right? It'd be a much different situation. I think you did a decent job at fighting your way out of this wall and, kind of forcing Ron to move back, taking advantage of Ron's tendencies as a player. But again, it just goes into you had an opportunity for an advantageous situation, but now it's gone, and now you're back to fighting neutral against Rotten, and it's kind of an uphill battle, right? Because he'll take advantage of your habits and tendencies as a player, and he has a lot more room to move around with and a lot of time on the clock. Whereas if he was at the wall, right, he'd just be in a worse position overall. Now your back is back to the wall. Oh, misses it up, gets it again. Chunky damage, and wraps up the game from here, I think. Yeah. A bit haphazard as I kind of tried to rush this. Kind of. Not really. I was just more like, hammering home those points, right? But let's do the quick breakdown. Neutral, punishment / matchup knowledge, combo / Oki, personal opinion stuff. Neutral. I talked a lot about it already, but it's just you gotta poke more. Jabs, down back 3, down 4. Utilize those options. So if you want to use those big strings or those big reward options like forward 3, of course, we'll go back 3, 2, etc., right? Those are fine, but what can you do to supplement those options? What is, how do you condition your opponent to fall for those big options? You quickly poke them to disrupt their offense and condition. Think of it like this. You are, what's a good analogy here? By utilizing faster options like jabs and pokes, like down 4, down back 3, you force your opponent to focus on those. To challenge them, if they're challenging jabs, they have to duck or move out of the way. If they duck, your mids will now be more potent, right? If they try to move out of the way with movement, 1 + 2 becomes potent. Oh, what's a homing mid? 1 + 2, right? So covers a lot of the options. If they want to answer your lows, Bryan has a good option in orbital, yes. But, once he starts doing orbital and you're in range for a whiff punish, it's not as ideal, right? Just think about if you want to elicit a specific response. I want my opponent to duck so my mids are more effective. How do I do that? Start using a lot more lows, start using a lot more jabs, and elicit that response from your opponent. I want my opponent to move around more. How do I do that? Hatchet kick or back 1. Powerful but relatively linear moves with weak sides. That'll make them want to move around more. Then when they move around more, your 1 + 2 comes back into rotation. It's just something to consider as you play, right? How do I condition my opponent? How do I make my opponent commit while I do the least amount of commitment? And a lot of it is just going to be quick, simple pokes. Punishment / matchup knowledge. This goes into more detail than I really want to focus on right now, but I'll touch upon it a little bit, right? I talked about stage positioning to consider, but also you have to start factoring in the person you're playing, right? Don't just look at the character matchup, look at the player. Look at Rotten's habits as a player, how he's pretty respectful on defense to the point of being almost passive. If he can opt for it, he will try to move away from something while continuing to stand block, which makes him very susceptible to options like hatchet kick, right? All of that is information that you should be using to formulate your offense. And it'll evolve, it'll change a lot, you'll get new information, and you have to change your offense that way. But for right now, it's a lot of it just feels like you are running your game plan based on it's worked for you in the past, not it's worked for you or it's going to work for you because of information you're utilizing from Rotten as a player, right? It's the simple way of saying just look at the screen, what is your opponent doing, what can you do against those options, right? Combo / matchup, combo / Oki. Combos were fine. I don't really have any opinion because I don't play Bryan. Oki, if you watch the Ron video, I talk about it, but basically it's just, don't overcommit when you don't need to. Maximize your advantage in other ways, right? If the combo's not going to kill, so how do you maximize the advantage after that? You go I'm going to put myself with as much backdash room to myself and make sure my opponent's back is to the wall. That leaves me in the most advantageous position, even if I sacrifice 1 or 2 hits or some Oki for it, right? Personal opinion stuff, talked about it. Do some more jabs, do some more lows, do some more poking. I talked a little bit about the throws with Rotten. I thought Bryan had like a full throw game. He does not. I still think you'd want to utilize them every now and again to try and tax your opponent's mental stack, but it's up to you as a player. I kind of skimmed this. I'm really just trying to hammer home the points that I made before. If you have any questions, let me know. I was just kind of stream of consciousness there, but let me know. All right, have a good one.